All good feedback is designed to either change or maintain somebody's behavior. For example, if somebody always comes to work on time and they always get their projects done ahead of schedule, telling them, hey, I appreciate how quickly you get things done and how punctual you are, is a kind of feedback that maintains their current positive behavior. On the other hand, if somebody is always late to work and they never get their projects done on time, telling them, hey, I see a problem, how can we fix this? Or, hey, I see a problem, I need you to change this, is also good feedback. It's showing them where the problem is and what you want them to change. Unfortunately, most feedback does neither of these things. Most of the feedback that people give only serves to create insecurity in the mind of the person who is receiving the feedback. So in this video, I'm going to explain 3 common feedback mistakes people make in English and how to fix them. Mistake number 1 is labeling the person. This is the absolute worst feedback mistake you can make. This is where you give feedback on the person and their character instead of the behavior. For example, you have an employee that always turns in their work late and has lots of typos. You start the feedback with, you are lazy and sloppy. You're always late to work and you always make lots of mistakes. Fix it. Now, the person might change their behavior because of this feedback. However, the first comments you made were about their character and they were kind of negative attacks or criticisms. Instead of changing their behavior, the person is just as likely to start fighting those ideas in their minds and coming up with reasons why you're wrong. This is useless. If they're fighting the idea that they're lazy or sloppy in their heads, they're not going to be focused on actually fixing the problem. Also, maybe if you give them this kind of negative feedback, they'll just agree with you. They'll be like, yes, I'm lazy and I'm sloppy, and they'll start hating themselves. Many people, when they get these kind of attacks, they just start generating shame as a way to compensate for their mistakes. This is also useless. Negative feedback and criticism should be focused exclusively on the behavior and what the person can control. Labeling is also harmful when you put positive labels on the person. Telling somebody they're really smart or really professional is just about as useless as telling them they're stupid or sloppy. Putting a positive label on a person doesn't tell them what behaviors you like or what behaviors earned them that label. And secondly, research shows that putting positive labels on a person can actually be really harmful. Researchers did a study where they put 2 groups of children in a room and gave them advanced math problems. One group, when they performed well, were told they performed well because they worked really hard. The other group were told they performed well because they were smart. Then both groups were given another set of advanced math problems. The group that was told they were smart gave up on the second set of math problems much more quickly. For them now, if they struggled with these advanced math problems, it meant they were stupid. So they would rather feel smart than actually take on the challenge of these math problems. Secondly, they were much more likely to lie about their results. They said they had got better scores than they did because they wanted other people to see them as smart. So, any form of labeling, positive or negative, on the person's character is always bad feedback. Instead, you should only give feedback on their behaviors and things that they can control. So if you tell the person, you have been late to work 5 times this week, I need that to change, they can see the problem and they know exactly how to fix it. You haven't said anything about them, you've said something about their behavior. Second, if you're giving somebody praise, give them praise on things they can control. So don't tell somebody they're smart, tell them, wow, you really did a lot of research for this presentation, I appreciate that. They can't control how smart they are, but they can control how much research they do or how well prepared they are. So, mistake number 2, turning behaviors into labels. Let's go back to that first example with the guy who's always late to work. If you tell somebody, hey, you're always late to work, that is turning it into a character trait instead of a behavior. Other examples include, your writing is really vague, or your presentation is really aggressive, or you talk too much. You've taken something that somebody does and turned it into who they are. When you turn a negative behavior like being late into a character trait, once again, the person will start fighting that label in their heads. I may be late to work, but I always turn my assignments in on time, so I'm not always late. These sort of internal conflicts doesn't help the person change the behavior. Instead, always get very specific with the behaviors and always use the past tense. So instead of saying you're always late, say, hey, you were late on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Can you please change that? It's no longer a label, you're pointing out a real problem in the world. They can argue with a label, but they can't argue with the behavior. Other things, if you say, hey, you're really aggressive when you present, the person can't do anything with that. However, if you say you point a lot and your voice is really loud, those are two measurable behaviors they can change. So, to avoid turning behaviors into labels, always use the past tense and point out the behavior somebody is engaging in and don't turn it into a label. The third mistake is drawing attention to the person and not the work. So imagine you ask your assistant to make a PowerPoint slide so you can present your company. You want this one, and instead they give you this one. The easiest form of feedback is to say, you made it too feminine. You used too many colors. You made it too cutesy. The thing is, in English, whatever we put at the beginning of the sentence is our focus. So if you say, you made it too cutesy, you're saying the person is the problem, not the project. This will make the person think about themselves and whether or not they made the mistake, and not about the PowerPoint, which is the actual problem. So, if you give somebody an assignment and they turn in something that you didn't want, don't make the focus them, make the focus the project. This PowerPoint has too many colors. The font isn't really consistent with our brand. The image is too childish. Over and over again, you're directing the feedback towards the problem and not towards the person. So, just a quick recap. Never label the person, always comment on the behavior. Number 2, never turn behaviors into labels. Put it in the past tense and point out specific behaviors. Third, if you're talking about somebody's work, make the work the focus and put it at the beginning of the sentence. If you incorporate these 3 rules, your feedback will be much more effective and people will be much more receptive to it.